who are part of this first cohort. In next 5 years' time, we will be incubating 125 startups. Thanks to Department of Science and Technology, the researchers and startups would be getting generous funding through various schemes. It will allow them to explore new areas of research, innovation, and product commercialization. We would be hearing more about them in the later part of the program. So today's event is to meet everyone, celebrate the spirit of human resilience over pandemic, and have a meaningful discussion to find collaboration and connection. I welcome you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Agrawal. Now may I invite Professor Maninder Agrawal to share the objectives and vision of C3I Hub with all of us. Professor Agrawal, please.
Thank you, Ranjit, and welcome to Professor Sharma, Professor Verma, Professor Harish, all the guests, and especially the PIs and startup founders. As Nikhil mentioned that this is the first cohort of startups and R&D projects, and we are delighted to have you here, all of you. In fact, when we started this, we thought that perhaps not, given the COVID times, many would like to come, but you were proven wrong, and we see a very significant number of PIs and startup founders to be here. That's great. This is, I would say, the start of our relationship, that is we at C3I Hub and you as the PIs and startup founders. I guess these details have already been shared with you, that as we go along, what is the kind of partnership we envisage. Specifically with respect to C3I Hub, our charter, as Nikhil mentioned, is to develop technologies for securing digital space and cyber physical space, partnering with startups, and that's where for the first component, that's where the R&D PIs come in. That is, they are our partners in creating these technologies. So what we are looking at, not merely a research, but research and development. So we hope that each one of these projects will eventually turn up to be a useful and deployable product. Then the second one is to take it to the deployment stage with the help of startups and industries, and that's where the startup founders come in, that they are the ones, either they have an idea or they are developing an idea, working with us, which we will help them make deployable, provide necessary mentorship or arrange necessary mentorship for them through the pool of experts that we are creating, and eventually help them succeed in their business. And the third component, or the triad, is of our charter is to train the next generation of cybersecurity experts. And towards that, we have already launched a industry experts training program that has been going on for a year now. We are about to launch an e-masters program also targeted towards professionals, which is a one-year program that will give a master's degree. It's fully online course. And we are also planning to start a certification program for just recently graduated students who can then take up this program to augment their knowledge about cybersecurity. And needless to say that within IIT Kanpur system, we will be working with a number of MTech and PhD students and undergraduate students to increase their knowledge in this domain. So, unfortunately, due to COVID limitations and diversion of the attention, we have been a little slow in starting up. It's been a little more than a year since this C3I Hub was created. But now we hope to make up for the lost time, and we look forward to working with all of you in creating a very exciting future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Agrawal, for sharing your valuable inputs and insight. Now may I invite Professor A.R. Harish to share his perspective on the need to build research base and startup ecosystem for cybersecurity in India. Professor Harish.
Thank you. Good evening, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Professor Sandeep Verma, Professor Manindra Agrawal, faculty colleagues, and the star of the evening, the PIs and the startup. Welcome. Welcome to IIT Kanpur and welcome to C3I Hub. On behalf of IIT Kanpur, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to our institution. Now you are part of us. We are together as a family. IIT Kanpur is known traditionally for building up a new philosophy in education. Now we are branching on to a second phase of it. We have started ventures in areas which others are thinking about starting. Security is an important aspect in all these aspects. Some of you might be working in traditional areas. C3I Hub is focusing on some of these traditional areas as well as some of the new areas. But my sincere request to you all is focus on what you are doing, but also look at what IIT Kanpur is building. Be it energy, be it cognitive science, be it medical science, biotechnology, whatever you call it, the newer set of knowledge base that we are working on in the academic front, security is important. Most of these aspects, most of these diverse areas are dependent on digital technology. And therefore, you are all part of it. You will be protecting us. What we do, what we say, what we would like to do requires your support and help. So I welcome you all. Have an open mind. Please interact with IIT Kanpur team. IIT Kanpur has a very strong ecosystem for startup innovation. We have a very strong, powerful incubator, and we have startup companies on campus. Some of them are off campus. Some of them have graduated. The masks that we are all wearing on the dais, it is all made by one of our startup companies at IIT Kanpur. And now they have moved out to a different facility. Probably you will be gaining access to the cyber physical system infrastructure through C3I Hub. But you are welcome to use the infrastructure of the entire IIT system, IIT Kanpur system, for your research. If you need any support, any help, please contact any one of us through your PI or to the mentor. We'll always be there to help you. Professor Abhay Karandikar, Director, and Professor Ganesh, Deputy Director, could not make it today, and they have sent through me their personal greetings to you, their personal warm welcome to you, and it's my pleasure to convey those warm messages to you. Once again, welcome you all to IIT Kanpur. Thank you very much for joining C3I. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Professor Harish, for sharing your perspective. Now may I invite Professor Sandeep Verma to share his perspective on the need to build research-based and startup ecosystem for cybersecurity in India.
Good evening, everyone. Professor Sharma, Professor Agrawal, Professor Harish, faculty colleagues from IIT Kanpur, and PIs and the cohort of this evening. It's really a pleasure to be here today and to felicitate you on behalf of Science and Engineering Research Board which is an autonomous organization under Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Science and Technology, and we are one of the finest funding agencies in India supporting grassroots research with an investigator base of about 1.5 lakhs, 150,000 investigators. It's really a delight to be here because part of this journey of C3I Hub or the Cybersecurity Center at IIT Kanpur started from the funding provided by SCRB to Professor Agrawal and Professor Shukla, where they were invited by the board to create a cybersecurity center. And we were quite delighted during our visits there, during the assessments, that they have far exceeded the expectations of everyone, including the peer group, including the expert group, and that sort of gave a lot of credence that we do have deep knowledge and experience at IIT Kanpur to scale up this initiative of cybersecurity with the help of what is the Interdisciplinary Cyber Physical System Initiative, which is almost a 4,000 crore initiative of the ministry. It is a very interesting model that is being followed, where you have a hub at IIT Kanpur, and there would be many spokes both at the level of startups, academic collaborations, international collaborations, and that everything would bring back the value to the C3I Hub. And we hope that the investment of public money, the taxpayers' money, would bring us rewards, not only in terms of deep research, but also contributing to very many significant, challenging, and strategically important research areas which require the involvement of cybersecurity. So it is really a pleasure to see everyone here, including the startups or whoever is going to be funded or getting connected to the C3I Hub at IIT Kanpur. I wish you all the best. And you are not only getting connected to the hub at IIT Kanpur, you are getting connected to the Department of Science and Technology, to us, SCRB, and we'll make sure that the success belongs to you and it percolates down all the way to wherever in the nation we require strengthening of cybersecurity and cybersecurity related tools being applied to national missions and national requirements. And with these words, I again wish you all the best, and it is really a pleasure, and thank you all for being here, and to Professor Agrawal and Shukla for this invitation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Professor Verma, for your valuable insight. Now I may invite our chief guest, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, to share his perspective on the need to build research base and startup ecosystem for cybersecurity in India. Professor Sharma.
There are indeed many perspectives on cybersecurity and cyber physical systems. I'm so glad to see that IIT Kanpur has put together this very important event, and the stuff that they are doing through their hub is going to be so empowering for our scientists and for our startups and our incubators. So, you know, we should all be thankful. Of course, Professor Harish is here, Professor Sandeep Verma, Professor Manendra Agrawal, and Professor Another Sandeep. Anyway, you know, Sharmas and Vermas are so common in this part of the world. You throw a stone in random direction, it's going to hit a Sharma or a Verma. And, you know, because we're all walking around here. Cybersecurity. Now, let me first congratulate all of you who have received a project or a startup grant, you know, and that we are so happy that all of us are here together, learning from each other about these things. Look, a startup, let's first look at a startup, but before we do that, let's look at the structure and processes of the hub. Now, those of us who have been in academia for a long time, we had always thought of a center that is established or supported by Department of Science and Technology or DBT or any of these funding agencies. We had thought of this center as our personal empire, which basically means that me and 6 of my good friends, that we are going to own all of this, and that, which is not a bad thing, okay, that we would of course be committed to that, except there is very inward looking structure. It does not bring a whole lot of partnerships. It does not lead to a very big holistic vision about things. And so to remedy that, starting from this mission, which is a mission on cyber physical systems, also emphasizes the interdisciplinary nature of this research. We started that last year with an investment, the promise of investment of 3,660 crores. And another mission which is in offing, which would basically relate to this in many of the aspects of it, is the mission on quantum technologies. That mission is worth rupees 8,000 crores, and it will also establish similar kind of hubs, which are Section 8 companies. And these Section 8 companies basically is to empower not only our scientists, but also our industry and startups. So unlike these centers which would do basic research in whatever area with few people from that geographic location, the whole point now is that, that this is actually not a geographic entity, but it's rather distributed across the nation. And we are all examples of that. So all of us who have collected here today are basically, being empowered by this particular hub. There are 25 hubs of this kind across the nation, and between all of them, they cover pretty much the whole of artificial intelligence universe, if you would, which is machines working with intelligence, or intelligence working with machines. And this particular example here is the cyber security, both of data and information, but more importantly, of the physical infrastructure. So these are, very good happenings. Now, the point I want to make very quickly is that you see each of these hubs, you can think of them as a nano or micro ministry of that particular area. Now, what does it mean? I mean, everything that people expected some ministry to do, which means the outreach, which means to fund actually projects in that area, and also to seed startups in that area, all becomes the responsibility of that particular hub. So in a sense, the hub ought to have the big picture, the big vision, and be able to execute it by connecting with the rest of the world. Both within India as well as internationally. So the hub, which is a Section 8 company, as I pointed out, has the flexibility, it has the delegation of powers to the board to be able to do many of these things, which otherwise, not very easy to do, except through the government. So I think it's a historic opportunity for each of these hubs to be fully empowered, but also to develop a big vision, and then saying, look, who is going to do what across the country in order to build that vision is a lot like, taking a jigsaw puzzle, making little pieces out of it, distributing those pieces, making your picture, then reassembling it to make the big picture. So there are many different ways that you can look at this structure. One way to look at it would be to say, look, you are the custodians and aggregators of knowledge in this particular area, which means that it's not only for me if I am the boss of that hub, but this is to provide leadership in that particular area. This is only the beginning, right? So, we start with some capacity. We have to make the foundation based on which you can build bigger and bigger buildings in the future to come. Right now, our investment in each of these hubs, it varies from maybe 125 crore rupees to about 200 crore rupees, and there are 25 hubs of that kind. So, we need to create absorption capacity. We need to create human resources. We need to have, basic R&D, but also technology and products, and startups, and connect with the industry. All of this is provided by the structure of the hub. So the board of each of these hubs has 1/3 representation from industry, 1/3 representation from line ministries that may have interest in that activity, and 1/3 representation from academia and R&D. But you know, all of you who are together in this, I want all of you to think that you are not only partnering, you are not only being supported by the hub, but in some sense you are co-owners of this hub. So this is the meaning of empowerment. It's not about, you know, saying, okay, you know, I'm a small part of this, I'm just being supported, okay, whatever. And I'm so glad to see that, you know, this particular hub has already taken this initiative to go out of its shell and to bring in the best of people, the best of ideas wherever they are available. And I'm sure that there will also be very strong international connects that would come, you know, along the way. So I think, you know, these are very good times. I mean, if you, for startups, for example, if you were to look at, you know, just the Department of Science and Technology, we have supported more incubators and startups in the last 5 years than in the previous 50. So it is an idea whose time has come. I mean, nothing happens before, you know, before time, so to say. I mean, if you did all this 10 years ago, it'd be very hard. It so happens, you know, this mask that they were talking about, this was actually started by one of my former PhD students in IIT Kanpur. And this was more than 10 years ago. And it was so hard because this is, you know, it was nanotechnology. And who would think about doing hardware nanotechnology startup in the middle of nowhere, which is Kanpur, right? So times have changed. Okay, it was so hard back then. There was no support of this kind from the government that now is available to all of us, and which is, you know, so very heartening. I think we really have to seize this opportunity, if you would. There have never been better times. Let me also tell you quickly. So we did a third-party analysis of all the startups which have been there in DST supported incubators for the last 5 years. In fact, this analysis was also done by IIT Kanpur by getting some people and stuff. And they showed that this created about 27,000 crore rupees of new wealth and more than about 70,000 direct jobs. So of course, some of these companies would grow much bigger and they would bring in more opportunities. But you know, this is basically what happened in last 5 years. Now our plan actually is that, okay, 3,500 companies is something good, no doubt about it. 150 incubators is also good. But how do you make them 5x going in the next 5 years? So there's a challenge. Okay, so I posed this question and challenge is saying, okay, can we actually extrapolate the model that we have for startups and incubators to make them 5x, 500% more in 5 years? Or where is the bottleneck? So if you have any solutions for this problem, please let me know after this thing. I may be very happy to discuss it. But certainly we are celebrating 75th year of independence on August 15, 2022. Can we make this 3,500, 7,500? You know, to match the 75th year, put 2 more zeros in front of it somehow? All of this is doable. Okay, but now what is it? What kind of processes, mechanisms, structure and architecture that would be needed to be able to do this? Now, okay, I must conclude very quickly. Some things, you know, that I share with the startups. So startups is a very strange beast, if you would. Why is it very strange? Because we have very well-defined knowledge systems. The one knowledge system creates knowledge. Another knowledge system uses that knowledge. But startups they straddle between these two worlds. So one side of a startup is embedded in generating knowledge or at least transferring that knowledge. The other part is embedded in market, which means how are you going to transform knowledge into gold, okay, or silver or what have you, right? This is alchemy, pure alchemy, right? It is to leverage knowledge to generate opportunities. And so therefore, what I'm trying to say is that one needs to be a master of both, which means master of knowledge, but also master of market. This is very hard because, you know, whole lot of startups, when I talk to people, whole lot of them suffer some setbacks because they all started with fantastic ideas, because this is where we come from, fantastic ideas. But there is not as much due diligence on the market, not as much understanding of our competitors and competing products, and most of all the needs of people. What is it that they are looking for? And what is the price level at which that need could be satisfied? So just like banks is KYC, right? Know your customer. I think know your customer, KYC is the key to going forward with the startups. And that has to be done right at the beginning, not in the middle, not in the end. Other thing that happens, which is a little bit of a setback for startups, is that, okay, here we come from college, we may have done bachelor's or master's or PhD and what have you, but we are not connecting with people who have done MBA, for example, or MBA people are not connecting with scientists. Each one of them looks at other with a little bit of suspicion and a little bit of this lost in translation syndrome. So we are a little bit now very comfortable, people who are driven by ideas, especially when it comes to market realities, to cede that power and space to other people. But a scale up is not possible until that happens, because scale up doesn't happen based only on ideas. It happens based on chartered accountants, MBAs, hard realities of life, uninteresting people, and so on, who are not so inspired by your, great ideas and stuff. So, how do we get the teams together? And this is a cultural incompatibility often. But, all this is ought to be part of our training as to how to, live with people who are not like us, and so on. So I think, but anyhow, I just leave by saying that, future looks very positive. It looks very optimistic, if you would. There would certainly be some setbacks and so on. But I think that we have a new generation of people who understand things so much better than I did or any of us did. And this, this attitude to take greater risk, that has not been a strength of our society. But I think it's happening more and more. So many more people are with energy and the stamina for risk. Of course, there is no failure in the sense that you're losing somebody else's money. Always remember that. So there is no failure as such. Very few people I have seen, going totally bust. But anyhow, that you would graduate, you would do some business, and maybe embark on new avenues and so on. So I wish all of you the very best, both who are doing research now and those who are seeding a startup. The very best to all of you. It is actually best when both of you work together. Those who have a project and those who have a startup, for example. And that's the whole idea in this hub, that you have a seamless connect between basic R&D, technology, human resources, startups, industry connect. I wish you all the very best, and IIT Kanpur all the very best in having this very significant program in cybersecurity and many other things which are going on there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sharma, for your valuable inputs and thoughts. Now we'll have a very small, brief felicitation ceremony for our dignitaries. May I now request Professor Maninda Agarwal to present a memento to Professor Ashutosh Sharma. Thank you, sir. And I request Professor Sandeep Shukla to present a memento to Professor Sandeep Verma. And I request Dr. Tanima Hazra to present memento to Professor Maninder Agrawal. And I request Dr. Nikhil Agrawal to present a memento to Professor A.R. Harish. Thank you. I again request Dr. Nikhil Agrawal to present a memento to Dr. K.R. Murli Mohan.
If I may introduce him, he is the Mission Director for Cyber Physical Systems.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Tanima Hazra to present a memento to Professor Sandeep Shukla. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you everyone for your time. Now may I invite Professor Sandeep Shukla, Project Director, C3I Hub, to take us through the overview of C3I Hub cohort evaluation process. Professor Shukla. Can we have the presentation, please?
Okay. Oh, so you have to move the tables? So while the tables are being moved, let me keep talking. So good evening to everybody. And it's good to see that a lot of people here have come in spite of COVID and all that situation. So I will wait until the tables are cleared so that you can see something on the screen. But I'm going to talk about the evaluation process. So how we selected these startups and how we actually selected the R&D proposals. And given that our mission is quite specific, specifically we are looking into cybersecurity of cyber physical systems, cybersecurity of automotives, and cybersecurity of UAVs or drones. Now, the cybersecurity of cyber physical system eventually goes into all areas of cybersecurity, including authentication, authorization, including network security, including intrusion detection, including deception technology, even cryptography, lightweight cryptography. So it's not like cyber physical system, cybersecurity means it's exclusive from regular cybersecurity, which mostly people think in terms of data security, privacy, etc. All those things are included in the realm of cyber physical system security. So now the mission being very specific, and we had to propose certain problem areas where we would be focusing on. It was our goal is that we select proposals for research as well as for the startups that is in line with what our mission and goals were and what kind of problems we are looking at. So what we did is that we kind of said, well, first cohort, so every year there will be selection. I hope that is understood, that we have a number of, we have a goal for every year, how many startups will be incubated per year and how many R&D proposals will be funded per year. Now, so we made calls for proposals, thankfully, between the wave 1 and wave 2 of COVID. So that's why we could actually get a lot of things. The COVID second wave started coming when we were in the middle of the evaluation process. So we kind of posed a number of different problem areas. Now, this will change every year. So this is something that will be something that would be in our call for proposals, either in some explicit way or in some implicit way in the write-up of the calls. So we looked at, some of these areas. So one of the important thing is authentication and authorization, that is through which we connect to the systems, and also figuring out whether my system is compromised, the indicators of compromise, how do you use AI, machine learning, etc., to find that my system is compromised. The other important thing that is often forgotten, that cybersecurity is actually a kind of a balancing act between risk and efficiency, price, performance, cost, etc. Because you cannot, the best cybersecurity is disconnect everything, right? But we cannot afford that. So so when you have to be digital and we have to be, based on computing and networking and etc., so we have to evaluate risk continuously, the cyber risk. And based on cyber risk, we have to figure out what is my risk appetite. And based on my risk appetite, I have to do accordingly, put more money and technology for protecting my system. So this is an area where we don't see a lot of research in India, but thankfully, this time we have at least 3, this is for R&D proposals. So the numbers you see on in the parenthesis are number of proposals that got selected in that area of interest of us. So resilient and risk-driven system architecture methods, tools for measuring risk, etc., we have at least 3 funding. Then CPS applications, right? So power grid and industrial control system, these are CPS applications. These are cyber physical system. So there were a lot of such, in fact, UAV automotive also falls under application. So we have 9 of them selected there. And hardware security, security of efficient cryptography in hardware and making them, resilient to side channel attacks. That's in that area we got 3. Machine learning, as we are using more and more machine learning, we are seeing more and more attack on the machine learning itself. So machine learning can be misleading if attacks happen on machine learning methods and models. So we got 2 of them in that area, and cybersecurity test and research infrastructure creation, 2 of them, and privacy, location privacy, users' privacy, that we have 1 funded research. So that's the funded research. So we got actually 73 proposals. Out of 73, 3 were actually duplicates for some reason of others. So after duplication removal, we had 70 proposals. So we created a team of faculty members who actually went through these proposals and ranked them, and then 25 of them were selected for funding. So that's how the R&D funding proposals were selected. In the future, we'll be posing more concrete problems. These were more area-wise requirements that we tried to fulfill. And the process of elimination was that if the proposal was not, in line with what our mission is, etc., then we did not select them. But even among those we selected, we wanted to see what's the quality of the proposal and what is the credibility of the PIs and from their past performance, as well as what kind of deliverables they're giving. And most importantly, it has to be some technology-oriented proposal, that is something that has potential for translation to actual technology that can be used by industry, etc. For the startups, we got 26 actually startup proposals, and out of 26 there was a shortlisting committee that was formed, that included the faculty from the department, technology experts, but internal one. Then that shortlisted 21 out of 26, and out of those 21, 15 were selected based on a very extensive process, and this was going on during the second wave, so everything was on Zoom. So we had like Dr. Gulshan Rai and people from Microsoft Research, people from Siemens Research, and several others who actually sat through these presentations, graded them. We had a score sheet, a score matrix prepared. So according to the score matrix, they graded them, and grading by each of them was slightly variant, somewhere a little more on the liberal side, somewhere a stingy side. So we actually did normalization, through a normalization process, and out of whichever 15 came up in the top, then we actually went through some rationalization process, through internal deliberation, and then we proposed them for, being incubated. And then I believe that 13 have eventually agreed to be incubated. I guess 3 of them, for various reasons, had a second thought. So 13, and now what Ranjit will do is go through the entire sequence of the startups as well as the R&D proposals that have been funded. And I believe that whenever the person is present, they have to identify them to the rest of the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Shukla, for sharing the overview. Now I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you all with our R&D PIs and startup founders. And as Professor Shukla mentioned, I would request founders and PIs to identify themselves by raising your hand whenever their respective names are announced. So we have 13 startups covering 12 cybersecurity domains. I will introduce one by one. Asset Robo, which is into UAV security. We have Vikram Bansal, founder and CEO. They are developing indigenous technologies for anti-drone application by GPF spoofing. CD Space, which is into UAV security. We have Nikhil Upadhyay, founder and CEO. They are developing secure long-range video telemetry for UAV ISR applications. CosGrid Systems, which is into intrusion reduction and prevention. We have Murugavel Muthu, founder and CEO. They are developing holistic solution for secure access in borderless networks. eGyanam Technologies, which is into integrated SOC solution. We have Sudeep Saxena, founder and CEO. They are developing integrated automation, intelligence, and diagnostics platform for advanced warning and automation response. HackTech Security, which is into cyber asset management. We have Yes Vyas, founder and CEO. They are developing centralized platform which helps connect security testers and clients developer for prioritizing and quick fixing of vulnerabilities. We have XN Networks, which is into firewall and other filters. We have Nitish Kundu, founder and CEO. They are developing a threat intelligence gateway which creates a logical cyber border at network perimeter and deploy virtual forces to guard digital assets. Tsang Technologies, which is into security through AI-enabled SaaS. We have Nand Kishore, founder and CEO. They are developing SaaS model digital risk monitoring platform to detect and tackle cyber threats. Opt Cybersecurity, which is into cyber risk evaluation and mitigation. We have Arjun Bhaskaran, founder and CEO. They are developing cyber insurance SOC for cyber protection, cyber attack prevention, and cyber risk measurement and modeling. Secure Blink, which is into application security management. We have Tapendra Dev, founder and CEO. They are developing automated application security management platform that provides comprehensive assessment using AI-enabled capabilities. Techel Technologies, which is into honeypot and deception technologies. We have Subhashish Mukhopadhyay, founder and CEO. They are developing deception tools for IT/OT infrastructure, which are comprehensive and scalable to deceive potential attackers. WUS, which is into cyber literacy and awareness. We have Prasoon Sharma, founder and CEO. They are developing a software tool which integrates cyber literacy for blue-collar workers to be delivered in 10 Indian languages. Dissecto, which is into privacy-preserving security tool. We have Manav Mahajan, founder and CEO. They are developing decentralized privacy-preserving data sharing analytics framework, which is highly modular and scalable. The last, Cyber Warfare Labs, which is into cyber range solution. We have Yash Bhardwaj, founder and CEO. They are developing on-demand dedicated lab environment for red, blue, and purple team-based cyber war gaming. We have 25 R&D proposals covering 6 security domains. I will introduce one by one. Dr. Arup Kumar Pal, Associate Professor from IIT ISM, Dhanbad. Unfortunately, he is unable to join us today. He is developing cloud-based video surveillance system with application layer cyber physical system security. We have Dr. Rajesh Kumar, Assistant Professor from BITS Pilani. He is developing a model-based risk analysis framework for critical interconnected infrastructures. We have Dr. Deepak Ronanki, Assistant Professor from IIT Roorkee. He is developing smart cyber-physical security of electric powertrains in autonomous e-mobility systems. Dr. Sandeep K. Yadav from IIT Jodhpur. Unfortunately, he is unable to join us today. He is developing cognitive cyber-physical system testbed. We have Dr. Yogesh Vijay Hote from IIT Roorkee. He is developing mitigation of cyber attacks on power systems using nonlinear control system design. We have Appala Naidu Tentu from C.R. Rao Institute. He is developing lightweight key management protocol for securing industrial control systems. Dr. Santosh K. Singh from IIT BHU. Unfortunately, he is unable to join us today. He is developing cyber secure smart power interface for energy local area network. Dr. Neelam Dayal from IIT-DM Jabalpur. Again, she's not able to join us today. She's developing a full-fledged lightweight security system for cyber physical systems. We have Dr. O.P. Vyas from IIT Allahabad. He is developing a risk-averse resilience framework for critical infrastructure security. We have Dr. Neminath Hubali from IIT Indore. He is developing an intrusion detection system to identify cyber attacks against smart grid infrastructure. Dr. P.K. Roy from IIT BHU. Unfortunately, he is unable to join us. He is developing a cyber protection platform for medical imaging. Dr. Aditya Trivedi from IIT Gwalior. Unfortunately, he is unable to join us. He is developing a malware analysis tool using a machine learning technique for industrial control systems. Dr. Uday Pratap Rao from SVNIT Surat. Again, unfortunately, he is unable to join us. He is developing a novel attribute-based access control method for IoT and cyber physical systems. Dr. M. Asan Basiri from IIITDM Kurnool. Unfortunately, he is unable to join us today. He is developing a real-time intelligence system design for secure digital communication. Dr. Satyadev Ahlawat from IIT Jammu. He is developing a secure scan test architecture to counter scan-based side channel attacks. Dr. AP James from IIT Jammu. Unfortunately, he is unable to join us today. He is developing neuro-memoristic puff for biometric sensing chips. We have Dr. Bodhisattva Mazumdar from IIT Indore. He is developing a fault attack resistant crypto accelerator for ultra lightweight encryption protocols. We have Dr. Yamuna Prasad from IIT Jammu. He is developing a machine learning models resistant to cyber physical attacks. We have Dr. Parul Yadav from IIT Lucknow. She is developing a platform to produce synthetic data by processing personal data in cyber physical systems. We have Dr. Vivek Chaturvedi from IIT Palagat. He is developing solution for securing the DNNs deployed in medical imaging against data-driven adversarial cyber attack. Dr. Soumyadev Maiti from IIT Allahabad is unable to join us today. He is developing a lightweight cryptographic protocols for data auditing to detect loss of data from local storage devices in fog cyber physical system. We have Dr. Harkirat Kaur from IIT Jammu. She is developing virtual proxy agent software embedded in smartphone device. Dr. Sabu M. Thampi from IITM Kerala. He is developing novel security framework for Internet of Drones. We have Dr. Balaji Raman from IIIT Siriseti. He is developing a technique to do static design space exploration of cryptographic algorithms given the hardware architecture and accompanying essential drone software. The last but not the least, we have Dr. Swaradhyuti Paul from IIT Bhilai. He is developing a prototype of blockchain-enabled community microgrid for peer-to-peer energy trading. Thank you all for your time. Thank you, everyone. Now I may invite Dr. Nikhil Agarwal to lead the open house. Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. So we can, Nikhil, you can have the chairs back. Chairs laga dete hain.
Thank you, Ranjit. Please give us a minute. Let the chairs and tables should be put up. Then we can re-invite our panelists to come over, and then you can ask the questions.
Just want to correct Dr. Soumyadev Maiti from IIIT Allahabad, or IIT Allahabad.
Thank you very much, team, for making this quick transition. I know it's always challenging in the events like this when you have to do this transition. So I always appreciate the efficiency. Thank you very much. Let me invite our dignitaries back on the dais, Professor Agrawal, Professor Shukla, Professor Sharma. And now the floor is open to all. There will be certain mics which my colleagues will be taking around. You can raise your hand. You can identify yourself. If you have any questions related to any technology, how about the progress, about the working of the hub, your interaction, your mentorships, anything related questions, the floor is yours for next 15-20 minutes. So raise your hand. You can identify yourself and the person will come to you. It's open house, so ask any questions. All the questions are good questions. Yes, anybody?
I mean, for US government business, there is a security standard called FedRAMP, right? I mean, do we mandate, I mean, this is Murugavel from Cosgrid Networks. Does the Indian government mandate any security standard for, Indian PSUs or governments?
I can talk about power sector. So currently there is a committee that is working on, US has this thing called SCRM. So there is a committee that is currently working on having a similar regulation and standard for power sector vendors. I don't know about the other sectors. In the US, it is actually applicable to all federal vendors. So I think something of that nature will also come up. But power sector is certainly working on it, and it will come up very soon.
Okay, thank you.
We have a question here on the left first, and then on the right.
Good evening. This is Dr. Balaji from IIIT Sri City. So it is interesting to know that this Technology Innovation Hub not only launches the R&D projects but also the startups at the same time. I've seen with other hubs, it is quite different and interesting. So are there any plans where you will have an intersection of knowledge transfer or collaborations among the startups and the R&D projects? Is there a reason why you are doing this at the same time?
Yeah, first of all, that's an excellent question. What we are planning is to create a platform. We'll be in touch with you and share the details, where all the PIs of R&D projects, the startup founders, they can interact with each other. We will set it up formally. So there is a certain, let's say, membership of an entity where we'll provide all of you and then you can interact. Now the idea of launching it together was, of course, partly, we were to do both things in parallel, so it so happened together. Also, I think it's good in a way because the R&D project PIs can see what the startups are coming up, the ideas, what the product plan is. And conversely, the startup founders can see the kind of projects that are going to happen, and they might find a future synergy with that. And we hope that with this platform that we will be creating, this can be taken forward. And we would really love to have every R&D project PI to either join an existing startup through their technologies or create their own startup. And we will be very happy to host them.
In fact, I will add to what Professor Agrawal is saying, that if you recall, Professor Ashutosh Sharma in his talk was talking about actionable research. So this hub is not for pure play academic research, for actionable research. We want these proposals to take up commercialization, and as Professor Agarwal is saying, maybe come up with your own startup. So it's a sort of we are envisaging as a pipeline for our next coming years.
As I think Nikhil had mentioned, that we are targeting a minimum of 125 startups over the next 5 years. So we have just started. It's a 13, so it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, we have a.
Hi everyone, I'm Tanmay Dighe, co-founder HackX Security. So my question here is pretty much similar to what he asked. So looking at how GDPR is working in Europe and how HIPAA is playing an important role in the health sector. Now looking at the amount of data that was collected during the pandemic, healthcare data basically, when should be the right time that in India it is taken the steps to make it compulsory for this kind of rules, compliances are made compulsory for all kind of, whether it's a giant or a startup, so that the privacy is maintained and everyone has the right to privacy. So when should we expect it from our government?
Well, there is a data protection bill that is in the pipeline, and there was some discussion that it will be tabled in the monsoon session, which is currently undergoing. I don't know what the eventual, Ashutosh, would you know more? Okay. But it will, in either case, happen very soon.
It's not a question, just to answer the earlier point. Already Bureau of Indian Standards has come up with a privacy standard, which has been published already. I think 17786, I think. Okay. I don't know the number, just 2 months back. So that is ready for adoption in the privacy.
So I have a question. Yeah. Okay, so this is Dr. Sauraduti Paul from IIT Bhilai. What a coincidence that everybody asking on the same line, because my co-PI has just half an hour ago to ask, so this is a good occasion to actually. So is it possible to convert or the R&D idea into a startup later on? And in such case, is there any way to do that, or any extra funding will be allowed if it turns out to be a good startup idea?
So I can elaborate on the funding part. I know that's a most interesting part, particularly for the startups. All the startups look for funding, and thanks to DST, we have 3 schemes. The one is the Entrepreneur in Residence scheme, which provides a fellowship of 50,000 rupees to a single entrepreneur, or 25,000 rupees each to 2 entrepreneurs for 2 years, for 24 months. Then we have Prayas scheme, which will provide a prototype grant of 10 lakh rupees on phases. And most of the startups are now recipient of both the schemes. A third scheme, which is in offing, which will be limited to successful and meritorious startup, which is called the Nidhi SSS scheme, which will be, we can provide a funding and support up to 1 crore. And with our current funding structure and our own internal guidelines, out of 125 startups in the next 5 years, we are envisaging that we can fund up to 25 startups, 20% of the startups out of which into that scheme. So it's quite a significant funding, considering it's a government funding and it is supported by the IIT, and it is commonly said, there is no written rule about it, like about the valuation and other things. It is commonly said every rupee that the government put in this kind of ecosystem is 10x can be generated from the private sector. So you can imagine if you are able to get approximately 1.2 crores over a period of 2-3 years from the grant and schemes from the DST and IIT Kanpur, certainly your funding you can generate can go up to $2 million. So which is quite a significant funding considering the current ecosystem. And the growth we have seen in this startup domain the last 1 year has been absolute phenomenal. 6 months time, more number of unicorns have happened, which in my memory ever happened in the country. Every month there is unicorn happening, and the most exciting IPOs I was saying in the morning are happening in the deep tech, new tech space. In next few weeks, you will see the barrage of, so there is a lot of interesting opportunities are happening. And it's time that India should take up this deep tech cybersecurity space and start innovating rather than importing technologies from abroad.
He's asking if his grant can be converted to a startup funding. I think, no, you have to give your deliverables for the grant. In the same time, if you want to use that technology to do a startup, you can actually go to apply for the startup program. So there is no problem if you actually use your intellectual property for startup. But I don't think that you can convert. There is no conversion mechanism.
No. Actually, what I said is not to compromise on the deliverables that we committed. What I said is that because when I came here, that is a good thing about meeting with people. It turns out to our mind that perhaps it might later on be a very good idea for a startup. And because so the startup is more wealth generator than R&D. So in such a case, how much encouragement we are going to get as a rule, or I mean,
you will get full encouragement.
Yeah.
Encouragement very quantifiably, right? You know what I mean.
Well, it depends on the quality of the technology. If it is good quality, we will definitely support it. That will be very happy to support.
Okay, good.
And also, I can tell you today in the crowd there are many top industry people are also there. And the reason for coming over there is that the kind of interest which are generating from the industry for the proposals and the brief that we have given to them. So it's a time for you to network and share ideas with them. Yes, I think two questions here.
Can I come in?
Yes, please. Yes.
Just to supplement what he was mentioning, the research is a directed research here. In the sense, it has to fit into some requirements of a ministry or industry or some of the stakeholders. That way, there is every chance that the technology developed under part of these hubs will flow into the the industry side. So there is every conversion that is taking place because it is a directed research. Number one, and number two, also these hubs are created as a platform. Not only the seed support level, but also to migrate to the VC also will be brought into the the platforms. Not only that, some of the hubs already planning to go for fund of fund creation also. So there is every chance that the FDI also can flow in and then get into the startup ecosystem creation and then funding also. So FDI also can be tied up with this. That is the the entire structure.
Thank you, Dr. Mullimon.
My name is Sudeep and I work for a startup, and we work into automation and aggregation of a security operations center. Now I understand the best critical infrastructure labs are at IIT Kanpur. So how in COVID times we are working remotely, so how do we get access to that? And plus we also have our own lab where we have some of the best softwares from the global companies. Can the two be married together in one way or the other? Because SOC is a very complex thing and we have already a good infrastructure, but yours would complement the OT side of it.
I think we can, you email us and we can get into a discussion with our lab lead engineer and all that stuff. We don't, currently we don't work, ourselves don't work remotely. We actually work on site, especially on the OT side. But this is something that is interesting to explore, and we'd be happy to discuss.
No, we'll be happy to come to Kanpur. So Kanpur,
yeah.
That's
yeah, you're welcome. Just let us know.
Okay, thank you. No, for me, it's a personal reason. I was born and brought up in Kanpur, so we have an emotional connect for that. Yeah.
Namaskar, sir. My name is Prasoon Sharma. So I have two pointers. One, like we have eGEM for online procurement of all the services. So is there any platform for cyber security for startups to get in touch with providing solution to government platforms? And second, as Professor Sharma mentioned, that next year is our 75th anniversary. So can we do something like 75 cyber secure e-panchayats in regional languages? Are we working in this direction?
Anything which has a number 75 on it would be considered. Could be a 0 in front, 2 zeros in front, or a 75. Anyhow, if you give me one-page concept note on what is it that it could be done and how it could be done and by who it could be done and what would it take to do it, right? That can be considered.
Sure, sir. Will submit.
Hello, sir. I'm Dr. Parul Yadav from IIT Lucknow. Sir, I want to know, suppose we are doing some project, one academic institution and industry is there, we want to work a collaborated project. So is there any funding plan and all in which academic institution can work with industry together? There is some area that is the intersection of dots, some R&D part is there. So do we have some mechanism of funding scheme or some funding plan in which both can work together on same idea?
So, sir, yeah, there is such a platform. If you just go look at SERB Secretary, Professor Sandeep Verma is there. So there could be co-funded. So if an industry, brings in X amount of money, then SERB could also match it. So then you have to make a joint proposal, is that correct? Yeah. Also, Verma. Make a joint proposal with the industry. See, what happens is the government money is better utilized for creating long-term assets that industry does not have too much interest in. They want, okay, they would want to use the stuff you have in your lab, but not high-value items for long-term, that's not their interest. So you can leverage the industry money for salaries, for consumables, chai pani and stuff like that. And you want to hire people on higher rates than what the government provides, for example, right? So you can use industry money for it and use government money for creating more permanent assets.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, we can explore that. You know SERB?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Professor Verma, you would like to add something?
Don't work for industry for free, though.
Good evening, sir. I'm Nandakishore Harikumar. I represent a startup named TechniSanct. So we have been trying to raise a lot of funds from private equity players. But in India, the main issue is that most of the equity players are not aware about the cybersecurity industry, because they are asking us, why do you want so many cybersecurity companies in India? This is a request. At least an organization like IIT could give a bit of awareness to these equity players. That would be good. The second trend in the industry is that most of them want us to relocate to US or Europe, and they're only focused on serving a US-Europe market. When we say that there is a potential market in India, or like let's say at least in the Southeast Asian or Indian subcontinent, most of them are, maybe lack of their research, they are ignorant about that. So it's a humble request that it will be a big help for many of us as startups.
So certainly I'll answer this question. The first is, you have to tell these PE guys that we don't have many cybersecurity startups in the country. That's a wrong notion. That's the reason we are building up the cybersecurity startup pool here. Second is that I will just quote what the Prime Minister says: "Make in India, sell everywhere." Ask them to, you be based here, and then you can sell everywhere. We have $200 billion industry which is built up on this way. The whole IT industry is serving the entire world. So it is entirely possible today.
But Nikhil, I think he has a point. Maybe we should organize some workshop for these VCs as the hub to
so
get them more aware of the need.
So after a few months, once our startups are more mature, we will organize a demo day where these VCs and investors can come in, and then they can be exposed to what the solutions that they're developing, and it could lead to a funding round as well.
Actually, that gives an idea. Why not actually have produce a white paper on the commercial opportunities and market in your area, in this case cyber security, to kind of map and see what are the opportunities out there. And Murli, if this could be done by all the hubs, I think if we can ask them to produce an opportunity paper saying, look, where are these businesses? You know, they can hire also some third party to do this analysis. I think that would help everybody, not just one person. Depending on what is the area for that hub. Can we map actually how many startups are there? What is the space for startups? Where would they supply services to, you know, abroad and Indian opportunities? Actually, it doesn't matter whether you're supplying services abroad or here. The point is that, you know, you have a good business model. One shouldn't really worry, I mean, whether the market is here or somewhere else, as long as we know where the market is. What is the size of that market? What are the opportunities? And to tap that market, what kind of skills, what kind of infrastructure and stuff that we need to build. I think all the hubs, you know, can undertake this exercise would be very useful indeed.
Excellent point made. I think it will be useful. So we have a couple of more questions we can take. Yeah, here it is, and then in the front.
Hello, good evening everyone. This is Dr. Harkirat from IIT Jammu. So today we are talking a lot about research ideas, proposals, converting into startups, business model, marketing, need of understanding markets and these things. So there was a small thought that has been popping into my mind continuously while I'm sitting here for the last few minutes. So I've been thinking that our IITs are also host to a number of good business schools. We are having IIT Delhi, DMS School of Management, Kharagpur, Kanpur, almost all good IITs are having a very good business schools. As a part of these C3I hubs and proposals, where actually we are focusing, where professors and people who have spent years and years of their life reading research papers, doing research, understanding things. Is it possible to develop some kind of opportunities where they could actually be, you know, given a chance to learn their some kind of part-time programs, some kind of programs where they can go understand what is this basic business model, what are these marketing strategies, what are the MBA things, you know. I'm sure many of us are coming from very newly ITs. We've been doing a lot of admin works. We have been doing a lot of works that require some kind of managerial activities. I don't know how much I'm right, but that was just something that has been coming into my mind. Like, is it possible where some good few talented pools can also go and spend some while there to change their mindset, to learn more about how to get started, how to break this inertia. The inertia, I think, is one of the biggest obstacle where we are not able to jump from research to business. So is there any way to, you know, to map this or to bridge this gap? Thank you.
Yeah, also, sorry, I missed your name, the question that you asked.
This is Dr. Harkirat
From?
IIT Jammu.
So, doctor, the thought which has been coming to your mind, it is so wrong. I'll tell you why. You said that professors have been reading these papers for years. No, they have been reading it for decades. And you are so right in saying that they, you know, they need to connect with somewhere else. So actually, you're so right, and you were wrong about the first part, of course. So how do we? Your point was, how do we bring in MBAs and, you know, this realization, the market realities and so on? How do we inject it in these people? Is that correct? So you see, why do you want to inject it in professors? anyhow, they are lost game. I think there are some who would do it on their own. I think you need to catch, some really young people, and that's what they are doing. For startups and things. Of course, there are some training programs also which are run by the Nidhi program. I was given to understand that some 3 lakh people from engineering colleges and so on, they receive some rudimentary awareness creation for 1 week, 2 weeks, something like that. Some of them go on to do more. Maybe it's a little bit, 3 lakhs may be some sarkari figure, but anyway, maybe 1 lakh maybe out there or something like that. So this is about capacity building and awareness building in people who matter, who are likely to do this. In professors, there is a different kind of awareness that has to be built, which is for them to encourage other students who are work with them, to take up this. Because professors cannot work full time, but they may have a mindset which promotes these kind of culture and values. So that is very welcome. Anyway, if you have some program you're thinking about as to how to do this, it's always, write half a page of clear thoughts about what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and who will do it, and what it will take to do it. Right? In terms of resources or whatever it is. If it is not being done and if it seems to be of value, that could be, started on a limited scale. See, it's not, same thing is not for everybody. So let professors do some good teaching. And so that they, that includes you, right? You are a professor. So let them do good teaching and transmit some of these values by their training, by their teaching. Now everybody will do the same thing. Okay, some of us will do good teaching, some will do good research, some will do good innovation and entrepreneurship. But I think you're right in saying that, look, how do we create this awareness about the possibilities and about the opportunities and so on? And I think my colleague Murli Mohan was going to say something about this. Can you please say that?
Sir, you already told nothing more to know from my side to implement, but would like to mention one point, sir. Basically, probably she is referring to the bringing back, the IIMs with the hubs actually, particularly, to impart modern, the management techniques for the budding entrepreneurs and as well as students.
I think it stops hubs from inviting.
Yeah, that's what, sir. Already we are having that.
Right, whether, from IIM or other MBA schools, who can give these. In fact, the Nidhi program, what is it called, Nidhi program, they in fact have given this big project to IIM Ahmedabad in creating, this kind of training and stuff. I think there are 3 or 4 big projects with IIM kind of institutions which are supposed to do this. But each hub can start its own program. There is no problem. And I think everybody who's incubating there, of course, that they need to learn all these ropes. Yeah. How to save tax, for example. We don't know how to do that. And all this is very important.
Okay, just to add what Professor Sharma has said. So all the startups, as you are already aware about, are part of our technology business incubator, which is called FIRST, or commonly called the SIIC, which is, we are one of the largest incubators in the country today. And as a part of our continuous activities, we organize hundreds of webinars and interaction mentorship program for our startups. But I think what Maninder sir has said is absolutely right. We will invite now the R&D PIs also, if you wish to attend some of these programs on commercialization opportunity, or maybe incubating a startup, or look for funding, or transitioning from a technology to commercialization part, or filing an IPR. We have a very mature IPR cell as well. So those things we keep on organizing, how to file a patent, so those things we would be delighted. And I'll make sure that these invitations are also passed on to you. Okay, so we may have time for one last question. Yes, so here is a hand. So.
Yeah, hi, good evening all. My name is Ravi Gulati. I head the sales for L&T Smart World. First of all, compliments to IIT Kanpur and to DST for sponsoring this C3I Hub and this event. I was picking up some cues and questions from coming from some of the colleagues and the co-founders and startups and the academicians. I just wanted to share, a perspective out here, and maybe it'll answer some of the questions. Being in the business of, setting up ICT-based digital infrastructure for smart cities or safe cities or various national large communication projects for government like BharatNet or working for defense, we do see a big lacuna of not having, should I say, proven cybersecurity solutions which are made in India. We have been privy to many of the requirements which have come wherein because of the PMO and Niti Aayog guidelines, they are asking people to go for Make in India, and some of those RFPs and tenders have been pulled back because there weren't enough people who were meeting the requirements. Or maybe we were not aware that some of those players exist in the market who might meet the requirements. So the message which I'm trying to say out here is, as industry representative, as representing L&T out here, we have created, the platforms where we are welcoming, companies which are getting endorsed, startup under C3I Hub or on their own, to engage, where we also have created platforms to be able to test out some of those solutions on live environment, whether it is smart cities or working with, smart grid organizations. We're meeting on some smart metering projects. We're working on some defense projects, where we are able to create, in a closed environment, the opportunity to test out some of those solutions. And if that works out, many of those solutions can be taken outside India also. So I'm very happy I'm here as part of this gathering, and look forward offline to interact and get some more details to be able to actively contribute. As a matter of fact, my organization is already in touch with Ranjit for some discussions which we are having for long-term collaborations. In fact, we are signing up an MOU with the Gujarat Forensic University also, which is now National Forensic University, on similar lines. Very happy to be here and look forward to more interactions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gulati. And here is an open invitation from company like L&T. Go and test. Go and they will verify, they will use. So there's nothing works if it's a verifiable and commercializing solution. And if the company like L&T, you can collaborate, I think now, Raviji, you have done a mistake. Everybody will now come to you and start asking for an MOU. You have identified us. So thank you very much. So with this, we can close the session. Thanks a lot once again. One last comment always.
So this certain certification is a very good driver of thing. But right now it is restricted to maybe in a government or some large organizations. So maybe if IIT Kanpur can also impress with the government authorities to spread that, to a wider mid-market, and maybe take it more federal, not only central, maybe state-focused initiatives in that, So that could probably give an impetus to the ecosystem.
We actually have put up request for distributing CERT to the state level, sector level, and other things. But these things take time, and I have talked to the secretaries of various government departments. Main problem is that there is not enough people, to staff those CERTs, even sectorial CERTs. So we are, one of the charter of the hub is to create more and more manpower, but the cybersecurity is such a lucrative job market that even if we train, they go into private sector and various things. So it's a very difficult thing for government to actually get these things going in a very fast-paced way, the pace at which we need them. But yeah, that is something we have been telling them, that this has to be more federated than centralized.
So thank you very much. With this, I would like to invite. Okay, last here. Last.
Okay. I'm Yash. I'm from Cyber Warfare Labs. And my question is that with the ever-evolving threat landscape, various vulnerabilities are introduced in systems in various corporate sectors and other things. So how a company or how one can ensure that they are safe from these threats, their networks and their servers are safe from these threats? Like, let's say latest vulnerability is introduced, let's say yesterday, and there might be any insider threat or variety of things that are that can play a role.
So you are never sure. So cybersecurity, you cannot be 100% sure. So what you have to do is that you have to continuously do monitoring of your network or your assets, and then so if you look at the NIST, NIST cybersecurity framework, it talks about identify, protect, then detect, then respond, and then recover, which means that we have to assume that attacks will happen, and attacks will probably happen. We should be able to detect them, but we may not be able to detect them, and then we have to be able to respond, or eventually, when you are really gone down, then you have to recover. So we have to be prepared for all those. Certainly, new vulnerabilities is a big problem, especially given that it's weaponized. There is a whole market of cyber weapons based on unknown vulnerabilities, zero-day vulnerabilities. And I think that one thing that we are not paying enough attention is in diplomacy. Cyber diplomacy is very important because we have to actually declare moratorium on this kind of warfare, because otherwise there is no protection from cyber attacks, from zero-day vulnerabilities, and we have to do diplomacy. We have to get into no first attack agreements with countries. We have to have cooperation for bringing perpetrators in other countries who attack us to, for law enforcement. All these things have to be done, otherwise we are toast. We are going to have our critical infrastructure, no matter how much research we do or how many startups we produce and how much technology and tools we produce, you cannot guarantee 100% protection from very, very determined attackers. So we need cyber diplomacy in very, very strong way, and I think that this is something that has to also come, in the next few years. So that's something that the push is now on. I have been very, very pleased by the Ministry of Power that I am involved in multiple committees. The amount of push they are giving, sometimes the push may be a little too hard for small utility companies who don't have the money, but I think this push is needed. I think other sectors might be also doing something similar, I don't know. But yeah, so the regulators have to push. Regulators of every sector has to push to get this going in a very fast-paced way. Otherwise, we are in trouble.
Okay, thank you very much. And let me invite Ranjit for further proceedings.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. I will request dignitaries to take their respective seats in the front dais, front stage. No, that's almost. May I invite Dr. Tanima Hajra, CEO, C3 Hub, to deliver a vote of thanks.
Thanks, Ranjit, and good evening, everyone. Let me first say that I am honored that this job of thanking our dignified guests, my colleagues, and the representatives of incubating companies and the academics has been given to me. This was a milestone occasion for C3I Hub, which was approved almost 1.5 years ago by Department of Science and Technology. But due to the pandemic situation, we could not celebrate its launch. However, this is an even more interesting occasion that we have achieved our first year's goal in terms of incubation and research funding. I wholeheartedly thank DST for funding the Cyber Security Innovation Hub at IIT Kanpur. In particular, I would like to thank Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary DST, and Dr. Murali Mohan, Director NMICPS in DST. We are thankful that they took out time from their busy schedule to grace this occasion. I would also like to thank and acknowledge the help of Professor Sandeep Verma, Secretary ACRB, for his continued support. ACRB has funded C3I Center back in 2017, which enhanced our research infrastructure in cybersecurity and brought IIT Kanpur to national spotlight as the place for academic cybersecurity research in India. I thank you, sir. I also thank Professor A.R. Harish, Dean of Research and Development, for his continued support back at IIT Kanpur, also for making it today for this occasion. I also thank my team members at C3I Hub for their working so hard to make this event success. I thank Pranay and his team for doing a wonderful job in organizing this event. I thank all the entrepreneurs and academic researchers who have been made all the way here today. Finally, I thank all the guests who are with us today physically, and also those who are watching live telecast of this event from home. At the end, I invite all of you to join us for dinner after this, and also I wish everyone a safe travel back home. Thank you very much.